Hello and welcome to another of Packaging Europe's Live Week broadcasts. As you can see from the virtual background behind me, today was supposed to be the first day of Interpack 2020, and that's the context behind all of our Live Week activities. We're going to be exploring the topics, announcements, and problems that would have been discussed had we been there in person in Düsseldorf. But instead, we're doing this on the virtual platform of our Live Week and the series of broadcasts that we're putting out. Today, we have 5 inspiring guests who are going to be discussing sustainability, innovation, and inevitably how the pandemic is changing all of those calculations for the packaging industry. First of all, we're going to be talking to 3 of our star judges from the Sustainability Awards. Then we'll be moving on to interviews with 2 Interpack exhibitors, or companies that would have been exhibiting at Interpack, namely Wipak and Koehler Paper. And at the end, we hope to take some questions from you, our audience, who are watching live on YouTube. You can send us any questions that you'd like to put to our panel through the YouTube chat function. So let's start by introducing the first 3 of our panelists. As I said, they are all members of our star judging panel for the Sustainability Awards. First of all, we have Chakravarthi AVPS. He's Global Ambassador of the World Packaging Organization. In addition to that, he is CEO and MD of EcoBliss India. He's the former chair of the Indian Institute of Packaging, and recently was awarded the prestigious title of Most Influential Leader in the Packaging Industry. Secondly, we have Jocelyne Ehret. She has a background in packaging stretching back through a career at Danone, Mondelez, more recently at Vyse, and a couple of years ago, she founded her own consultancy called therightpackaging. Let's start by addressing the inevitable question of COVID-19, the pandemic, and how that's completely changed everything that we thought that we were going to be talking about in May when we were looking ahead a few months before Interpack. Chakravarthi, could you share your perspectives from someone in India and with a global view of the packaging industry on how it's impacting on our industry at the moment?
Industry is affected, business is affected, and it's going to be a short term. I'm very optimistic of it. Of course, we are seeing the negative sides of the COVID-19, rapidly business declining, economy is going down, everything is negative today, but I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. See, we always say better quality of life through better packaging for more people. The statement still valid. So packaging can never go back. Packaging still in the front side. And as far as the COVID-19 is concerned, India being the pharmacy of the world, producing the medicines for the 211 countries all over the world. Imagine the packaging. I'm not talking about the packaging which helps the so-called hydrochloroquine tablets or azithromycin or paracetamol, or recently the Gilead also is talking about remdesivir also is finding an application. I'm not talking about these medicines alone. Look at the packaging contribution in that so-called PPEs, personal protective equipments, the medical devices, components, ventilators, sanitizers, disinfectants, whatnot. Pardon me for saying this, even to carry the dead safely, not affecting COVID-19, the packaging plays a vital role. Yes, India was under lockdown for a long time. Even today, there are severe restrictions. Some relaxations are there. The industry, the essential goods, and some industries are allowed to run with strict regulations, with the protocols of healthcare and safety, COVID-19 protocols in place. Yes, there are huge challenges. At the same time, yeah, we are able to run that. And coming to the packaging, just other than these pharmaceuticals, imagine the packaging is enabling those billions of dollars of worth of food getting wasted. Without packaging, it is not possible. Also, during the lockdown period, we all at home, we are getting the deliveries of the very food and beverages or whatnot to be it bread or cereals or anything to just live upon. So packaging is in the forefront. Without that, we can't do anything actually. I love the profession of packaging, and believe me, I feel proud to be in the packaging profession.
Thank you, Chakravarthi. Jocelyne, you're in France at the moment. How's your from your contacts with people across the industry? What's your perspective on the immediate challenges and impacts on the packaging industry?
So I would say that over packaging or many individual packaging to protect food from contamination, like we can see in the supermarket, could be an issue, could be a challenge somehow. And we have to be very cautious in order to avoid to go back to square one. Mean implementing, again, unnecessary packaging and be in the same situation where few or 2 years ago. And at the same time, there is a lot of opportunities to design the right packaging, useful, functional at the first time. So this is something that I see, and in terms of perception, I think there is two big cluster of people who use this pandemic to reinforce what they thought before. You have the climatic skeptic who says it has always existed, and you have also at the same time the green activist who says that it's due to the pollution, climate change, etc., etc. So it's not so simple, but what is sure is that customers now see and understand why single-use packaging was developed. Initially to avoid contamination and contagion and so on, so which is a good thing. And in terms of industry, you know, my company is working in two main areas: the transport packaging optimization with a big player who source their packaging or their products outside Europe, and I'm working also with a big brand owner for packaging sustainability. Regarding transport packaging optimization, it becomes now crucial to optimize it in order to reduce the number of trucks, the number of maritime containers, transport more product and less air. And as the transport of goods restarted from Far East, it's even more key to focus on a more sustainable supply chain. And for the second point, sustainability is still a priority in the agenda of main big brand owner and big player, but finding solution allowing at the same time a good shelf life, a good protection of the product, and omnichannel is also very important.
Kevin, you've been a champion of sustainability and circular economy for many years. Do you have the view that in the current context, packaging is perceived differently and perhaps sustainability is perceived or prioritized in a different way to it was a few months ago?
I think the biggest single thing is that the press have got other things to talk about. They have taken their eye off the plastics is bad ball. I'm not sure the consumer has got this active voice that says all packaging is fabulous and you know, we should use more of it in any way. What I do think is that, and what I'm detecting is that people have prioritized in their lives, so they're actually looking very much about how I protect myself. So they're looking at, if they look at packaging in any sense of the word, they will be looking at the pack to see if it protects them against possible contamination. So where a lot of retailers have gone and stripped packaging off, you're seeing that creeping back in again. So flow wrap fruit and veg, for instance, is allowing it to pass through the supply chain to the customer without contact, but I'm not sure they're making a big statement about it. Second thing is the removal of the packaging and the disposal. We are seeing an increase in littering, actually, ironically, of PPE equipment. So people are, again, I've protected myself. I don't really care about anybody else. So it's that selfish gene that is still worrying me, that we're not seeing people engaged with the opportunity we have in the current crisis to move into a more circular, more sustainable way of doing things. And you notice that the phrase is, we want to go back to normal. And the significant word in there is not normal, but it's the word back. I do not want us to go back to normal. I want us to go to the new normal. And the new normal says we use packaging, as we've all described just now, and we understand its value. In doing so, we dispose of it in a responsible way that allows it to become circular. And obviously that brings us back to plastic and the woeful way we've dealt with plastic over the years, and how really we've undervalued its worth. And for me, the most challenging part of all of this is what's happening around COVID is that the oil price has now dropped below $20 a barrel, or it's floating around 30 today. That means recycling is going to be very uninteresting to anybody, because recycling plastics is so much more expensive than $30 a barrel for virgin. And right now, the American industry, the American producers of polythene, are looking at their industry and saying there's no more money to be made out of hydrocarbons. Cars are going electric. The only place we're making profit is plastic. So they will be wanting more and more and more plastic to go to the marketplace, which is in direct contravention to us as packaging people who want to give the least possible plastic for the best possible protection. So flexible films, really, and solving the recycling of flexible films is absolutely a massive goal for us, because we can then give that protection with as minimal material as possible. So those are the kind of big challenges I'm dealing with in my head, and working out how we can deliver the solutions to those before we get railroaded into using lots more plastic, because the industry wants us to do that.
Thanks,
when
Kevin.
I say the industry, I mean the oil carbon industry.
Thank you. Chakravarthi, we're Packaging Europe, and we're obviously a little bit Eurocentric in our coverage, although we try to be as international in our perspective as possible. I think it would be really interesting to have your insights into how you see what Kevin's been talking about from an Indian point of view, and whether the same dynamics, the same challenges, and whether there's the same appetite for transition to a circular economy all in place in India.
Yes, Tim, Kevin said most of it, what I wish to say. What I wanted to really say to all of you is that in India and Asian countries, I travel very frequently. The situation is not so different from European countries. In fact, the regulations on the usage of plastic, the single-use plastic and circular economy norms, whatsoever, or in fact, in some of the Asian countries, there are stringent laws. So how we are following, that's a different issue. Of course, now I can't say it is taking a back seat. It is going to come back again. My concern and worry is, again, whatever Kevin said, I can't agree anymore with him. The recycling will not be any attraction for people. That's really, really a big concern. What we are saying is that let there be some regulations that all the packaging material must contain at least 20% of the recycled resin or recycled raw material, be it a flexible packaging film or thermoforming PET film or whatsoever, so that there will be attraction for the rag pickers or the waste pickers, and then the recycle industry will come forward. Now I'm keeping my fingers crossed. And having said that, the advantage of the plastics for mankind, look at it, the N95 face masks and all, I'm really worried unless we have a personal discipline of proper littering and getting into recycling, we are going to see the loads and loads of face masks with the turtle eating or some fish eating those masks. We are going to see that. So what I personally feel that the challenge before us is, everyone is talking recyclability and the biodegradability. When you talk about the barrier properties, high barrier properties required for extended shelf life, that is the biggest challenge, with less harm to the environment If possible, the monomers, not the multi-layer plastics, which are the recycling is difficult. That's going to be a bigger challenge in the future. Even in pharmaceuticals, you understand, because to keep up the efficacy of the drugs for till the expiry on the total, to take care of the drug strength throughout the supply chain gamut, you need to have multiple laminates, including the PVDC, the aluminum, or whatsoever. So there also you have to have a monomer. That is another challenge for the packaging research professionals in the future. But life is going on. We need to learn the proper littering practices, proper recycling practices. We can't live without plastics, that is for sure. And we can't live without packaging, that's for sure. So we have to adapt to the requirement and in the future, and have the life goes on, because the healthcare is top priority, as you all know.
Thank you, Chakravarthi. Jocelyne, one of the possible or probably likely trends that we're going to see as a unforeseen consequence of this pandemic is acceleration of the e-commerce growth. We're already seeing, lots of people transitioning to home delivery for much of their food and other shopping, and I think a lot of us expect people to remain in those convenient new channels. What do you see as the challenges there in terms of, while we're talking still about sustainability, does this create another set of paradigms and challenges to optimize and ensure that there's minimal waste?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is somehow a paradox situation, or this paradigm that has been created, because there is this merging now, which is really efficient, about online and offline shopping. There is just one shopping, whatever it's offline or online. And you have a very strange situation where you have the local player, very small player, like my little grocery bakery, where they have a new behavior. They deliver to you their production, etc. And you have also at the same time the global retailer, as Amazon, Carrefour, and maybe some other retailer, which maybe are too big and who have to limit their customer, and they can just be anymore fully efficient. So it's very strange. And what is for sure needed, it's omni-channel packaging. So not a packaging which is designed only for retailer or only for e-commerce, but a packaging which with a product which will be designed for both channels. Whatever it is, how it is ordered, and how the people shop or the customer shop doesn't matter anymore. So that's a great new trend, I think.
Thank you, Jocelyne. So, as I said, the three of you are members of the distinguished judging panel for the Sustainability Awards, and at Interpack this week, that would have been the big focus of our own exhibit, promoting the awards and the Sustainable Packaging Summit, which is due to take place in October. We now have 1 week until the deadline for submissions, and I hope members of the audience will be planning to submit if they haven't already. As judges, I'd like to ask the three of you how you will be looking in just over a week's time at the submissions that are sent to you. What will be the key criteria that you'll have in your minds about what really constitutes significant sustainable innovation in packaging? And as a sort of second part of that question, are there any particular areas of technological innovation that are going on at the moment that really excite you? Kevin, can I ask you that first?
The first thing as a judge I'll be looking for is the accurate use of the word sustainable. it is all too often thrown into the mix as a, look, we're doing a sustainable thing, but no justification for that. So my reference point will be to do with circularity, making sure that the people submitting the idea have actually thought cradle to cradle on it, and that it is a really properly joined up subject, rather than actually just because it's made of paper instead of plastic, it doesn't make it sustainable. The second part is actually looking at the economics and the overall interactive economics. And we mentioned there about the whole thing about online shopping versus bricks and mortar shopping. How has that been thought through? And quite often what we have is solutions delivered to the market looking for an application rather than solving a problem. So for me, I will look in the paragraph at the top saying, this is the problem we set out to solve, and why my circular solution does that better than the old linear solution. Very simple, really.
Thank you.
Well,
yeah, Chakravarthi,
Tim,
go on.
Yeah, thank you. Tim, a little skeptical, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I'm very optimistic too. Considering the enormous knowledge of the packaging professionals we have all over the world who are innovating every day. As you know, the packaging industry is close to $900 billion, close to $1 trillion industry. Of it, more than 50% goes to food and food-related products. And then next comes pharmaceutical, around 18% of it. Between both of them, it's occupying around 70%. I'm seriously wishing to see more innovations in both these categories, because they contribute to more circularity, they contribute to more to the mankind, because 70% of the packaging is not a small chunk, especially in the food category. If not biodegradable, at least 100% recyclable packages, which give the extended shelf life than what we have currently. This is going to be the key in the future, definitely. I firmly believe that. And it's going to happen. It need not be a nanotechnology in that. Even in the flexible films, there are a lot of researches are happening, as you all know. But they have to come out of the laboratory, and they have to be commercially viable also. And it has to keep in the mind the carbon footprint angle also at the same time. So this is on the food. Even on the fresh food, don't forget, post-COVID-19, the concern of the people is more on the healthcare and hygiene, etc. I'm not really surprised if people wish to buy even fresh food and fresh vegetables, etc. in a packed condition, contrary to what we are learning all these years. So there comes the sustainability angle. So one has to really cope up with the demand of the customers, at the same time keep up the sustainability angle also in mind. And next comes to the packaging of the pharmaceuticals. It's more important, really. Pharmaceutical is the most, because you're actually dealing with the most complex molecules of the medicines. There you have to really take care of the barrier properties and the long shelf life, because anything you are, this is going to be a life and death question for the user, that is the patient. So you have to really take care of that. But at the same time, you need to really invent and innovate. Innovation is the only key to the success. Believe you me, adaptation to the requirement, survival is the quickest. Survival is the fastest. Whoever does it first, they will have a say. So pharmaceutical also, I wish to see rather, I'm encouraging all over the world, people, not only in the sustainability awards, are great awards worldwide recognized. Thanks to for including me as part of the judges also. Even in the coming years also, I wish to see more and more innovations in the food and pharmaceutical sector, due regards to all other sectors, of course. Yes, please.
Thank you. And lastly, Jocelyne, what would you be looking for in a winning entry? What are the problems that you would like to see solved in sustainable innovation?
When we look at sustainability, there is something we define first. This is what we mean by recyclable. Recyclable. What is the definition of recyclable? Because if we have to judge and to look at alternative material, more sustainable, we need to define what sustainable means. Because if the material is not collected, sorted, mechanically or chemically recycled, and if there is no second market for that, what about the recyclability indeed? So, so the first thing that I will look at is really, is it truly recyclable? And then I think there is a big need about monomaterials, easy to recycle, based on the definition I just said, with high level performance, especially in the flexible packaging area. And the big challenge here will be how we collect this flexible material and what is the second market for this flexible material. Yeah. And another point very quickly would be all the commercially viable quantity of the PHA family product, which are very promising in terms of composting and marine biodegradable material.
Thank you, Jocelyne. Okay, so it's time for us to now turn to our two other contributors today. I hope we can now include them in the video feed. We have Yevgen Zolotkovski, who is Sales Director for Flexible Packaging Paper at Koehler Paper Group. And we also have Hery Henry, who is Head of Strategic Marketing and Corporate Social Responsibility at Wipak. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. Welcome.
Good to be here.
So we have two hypothetical virtual Interpack exhibitors with us again today. Yevgen, first of all, you've just been listening to the discussion. Did you have any points that particularly struck you that you'd like to respond to there?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with all the previous speakers regarding the recyclability problem, because I know that this term recyclability is being used in very different meanings so far. And for us specifically, because our products, which I will talk a bit more about later, means that these products need to be recycled, not just recyclable, but really recycled. And we ensure that because paper is the most recyclable and recycled material in Europe, actually, the total recycled quota of 80%. So this makes us sure that our packaging will be more surely recycled. And this is what I also absolutely agree with Jocelyne.
Okay, thank you. And Hery, did you have any thoughts on the discussion so far?
Great discussion. But I'm going to seize on what was just said to keep this interesting. So and draw a bridge to the recycling discussion and the regulations. So even with paper, I mean, we have paper products too, and even with paper, it is recyclable, certainly, but not recycled in the same way in each European country. So we're constantly in this conundrum that a customer will ask us, is this fully recyclable? Then we always have to ask, well, which of the 28 countries? And for instance, Denmark has 4 or 6 different regions, I can remember which, that all recycle differently. And when I was moderating at the World Circular Economy Forum about a year ago, it was abundantly clear that the public and politicians think that business is really worried about additional regulation when it comes to recycled content, recyclability, paper content, down gauging, and so on. We're actually not. We're just frustrated because the playing field isn't level. So we've got the solutions. We've had them for years. We need a level playing field in terms of regulation in order to be able to deploy what one of the judges said there at a scale that makes economic sense, both for recyclers as well as the people who produce the packaging.
Thank you.
Can I just come in with a point on that? I think generally, until certainly the last 18, 20 months, the recycling industry has been a space unto itself. And it's only because we've had to put the waste strategy together in the UK, particularly, that we started even talking about how we interact with them and how we design with them. And I think it's fair to say, and I probably will get hate mail for this, but the waste industry is generally not that interested in making profits the way in a collaborative manner. It's about getting rid of the waste product as soon as you possibly can. And if it takes a bit of investment to get it into either an upcycled or an equal cycled method, they're not interested. And only a few have come on board and said, no, we are now. We see this as a resource. We can work with you. And then going back to my previous point, we're challenged with the price of raw materials. If the price of the raw material comes down, the virgin option looks so much better all the time.
So Tim, can I just briefly comment on that, because I think there's an additional element here. So consumers have a tremendous power in this, but it's very difficult for consumers to pick out a product in the shelf that's actually better for the environment. And at the end of the day, I mean, we pinpointed there, and the price of the end product, packaging is about 1.5% of that when it comes to flexibles. So it's not a big deal, but consumers need to understand what they're buying. So recycling comes after that, but there's a problem in the value chain before that. I think the solutions are there, but scaling them and making them the mainstream products, and then running them in a circular fashion, that's where we fall short as a society at the moment.
Okay,
if I may weigh in on this, I think that to make the playing field level, we need definitely, at least on the European level, we need a certain legislation which at least provides regulations for certain most common recycling streams. So would it be paper or PP or PE to really make the collection easier and the converting easier. So this is what we absolutely need, and I think all industries need to work more on the European level together to reach exactly this goal.
Yeah, thanks, Yevgen. Let's now focus on Koehler paper and what you're doing as a business to address this situation. Koehler has made a strategic decision to engage in the packaging industry and in providing circular solutions in traditionally flexible plastic packaging applications. Can you tell us a little bit about the technological challenges that you at Koehler face in going on this journey towards paper as an alternative material?
Yeah, sure. Because when you look at the paper as a packaging material so far, it usually provides only the mechanical protection, but no protection against moisture, no protection against oxygen, grease, and so on. So to make paper fit for the purpose of replacing film, you need to provide certain barriers by adding some coatings into it. This is why we decided to do it in an industrial way. So we made an investment of more than 300 million euro to be able to produce it in a very effective and industrial way. So what we're doing, we take in the specially developed paper, which can run on the packaging lines, because this is also another challenge, of course, to make paper run on the lines where previously plastic has been running. And this is why you need a specially developed base paper. Then we put specifically developed coatings on top of the paper to guarantee and provide for the barriers which I mentioned. Then, of course, it can be fit for purpose for certain products, depending on the barrier levels. So the challenges, of course, the technical challenges have been to first develop this on the lab scale, then put it on the level of the so-called pilot coating facility. And the third step is to bring it up to the industrial production level, because if you know paper industry, we have machines which are 150 meters long and run at the speeds of 1,600 meters per minute. So you need a lot of testing before you put this material into industrial scale. And currently we use special barrier coatings which are based still on the fossil elements. But another challenge, the next step, would be to get rid of fossil-based coatings at all completely and only focus on the bio-based coatings. So this is why we developed and established the so-called green coating collaboration with the university in Darmstadt, close to Frankfurt, exactly for the purpose of developing these bio-based coatings. And the next challenge for the whole barrier paper is to keep it still recyclable in the regular paper waste stream. So this is already now the case, even with the fossil-based coatings, because we can separate them during the recycling process from the paper fibers, and you can reuse the fibers. And this is actually, from our point of view, 100% recycling, although you can argue what 100% recycling actually means. Of course, you do not get 100% of fiber, 100% of the total material in the recycling process, but at least you get the fiber. Exactly. Yeah, this has been the challenges which we have overcome to the largest part. And as I mentioned, the next step to switch and to transform completely to the bio-based coatings.
Thank you.
Evan, I'm very happy to know from Koehler's developments in finding an alternative to the films, doing I can't say it's a waterproof, at least a moisture resistant coatings, but I'm little skeptical on that. We have been witnessing this for a few years recently. Be it may not be fair to name, but Bayer, McElman, Henkel, these are all developing these barrier properties, the coating, the moisture resistance coatings and all. I really wish to see this is affordability in the market, sustainability, and the moisture resistance to the maximum requirement, to meet the maximum requirement of that. And I really wish to see that happen. You know, there are a lot of challenges in this, because as I told you already, the food market is 50%. 50% of the total market is food. At least 5 to 10% of this is ready-to-eat foods on the shelves, restaurants. Now there are a lot of e-commerce drives are there. If you are able to find an affordable solution, the paper with the proper moisture resistant coating, I repeat, proper moisture resistant coating, this is going to be the key in the future. Right now you have solutions in the market, but consider the countries like in India. Even in India, the paper companies are working on these coatings, etc. But we are still using that extrusion coated, the polyethylene coated paper, because it's more vulnerable, more machinable. When you make the containers, when you make the glasses, the tumblers for the coffee, tea, or beverages, still people are using that. So I wish to see that more and more, at least if not 100% market, 90% of the market is taken over by these papers with proper barrier coated material. Yeah. I wish to see that happen very soon.
I just reply for a second. We need to be realistic, of course. Paper will not be able to replace everything, especially not aluminium. So we are not up at the level now where we can say that we can replace aluminium. But I think no other material can do this, or virtually no other material. Of course, we are also happy that there are more and more paper companies, our competitors, who do this, because this solution can only be really introduced in the market massively when not only Koehler, but also other companies do it.
The machinability and the cost effectiveness, these two are the key factors.
I think you're missing one huge element here, and that's consumer. Yes, it's the consumer. The consumer's problem. If you put a plastic on a cardboard and say to the consumer, please remove the plastic from the cardboard before recycling, they won't do it. You are at maximum, you'll get 5% of the population doing it.
You're absolutely right.
You need to get through to a point where it's so logical. Okay, that's a piece that's a piece of paper that goes in the paper bin, and then everything behind the scenes is taken care of by our developments and technologies. Second thing is, let's be really careful we don't go back to where we were in 78, 79, which is where we were cutting down trees faster than we could grow them. Because actually, that's exactly why the plastic bag was first invented. The plastic bag, carrier bag, was invented to relieve the pressure on the forests of Scandinavia. Absolutely. And actually, the intention was that that plastic bag was used over and over and over again, 10, 12 times, which stopped the problem. And then, of course, what we've done is we've become profligate with that piece of plastic, and we've added a problem on the plastic end and not the paper end. And now we're trying to go back to paper, and we haven't got the resource. We can't go back to in that way. So we've got to be really careful of what we mean by sustainability and circularity.
I think,
sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, Hery. I'd like to, if we can move on with the interview. We're running a little bit short on time.
Yes.
Yevgen, does certification play an important role in this demonstration of sustainability when you're looking to replace plastics with paper application?
Yeah, maybe just very, very briefly touch the issue which Kevin mentioned before. Of course, trees need to grow, absolutely, and of course, it's in the own interest of the paper industry that the trees regrow, because we would be, cutting off the chair which we are sitting on. So obviously, now I think there are much more possibilities to make the paper industry sustainable, and we know that there are more trees grown now than being consumed by paper industry. Okay, but this is touching this topic. Coming back to the certification, obviously we have touched briefly the question: what is really sustainable? And of course, we cannot just say that because it's just paper, it's more sustainable than plastic. And we need to really somehow look deeper into this issue. This is why we initiated the full scope life cycle analysis to compare our paper solutions with barrier properties to plastic and laminate solutions. And we will see some results coming out of it in June, July. Then we'll release them because we also want to know what is the total scale of this comparison. And of course, recyclability is one part of the life cycle analysis. And unfortunately, there is no single standard on the market yet for recyclability, even for these newly developed paper solutions. So this is why we are pushing together with the other participants of the industry towards having one standard. So far, we have two well-developed and well-established standards. This is the PTA method, a PTS method of German Paper Institute, and the Aticelca method from Italy. And they both actually just say that the solution can be recycled in a regular paper waste stream. And this is what we can provide for our papers as well.
Okay, thank you. So final question before we move on to Hery of Wipak. You would have been exhibiting at Interpack this week. What would you have been showing? Do you have any new products that you were going to be presenting this week?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have three product lines. One product line is just uncoated machine glazed paper. The other one is one-side coated paper with a certain gloss, which is suitable for Carrefour and Flexo. But I think most visitors would be actually more excited about the sustainable paper solutions, which we also would like to present under the brand of Next Plus. And this paper range will develop across next month. So the very first product which we would have presented today would have been the heat sealable paper, which is at the same time recyclable, as I mentioned, in the regular paper waste stream. This is suitable for some food products which do not require moisture barriers, for example, for example, sugar sticks, or for some sugar-coated products, or for example, for pasta and noodles, which only requires some mechanical protection and still can be converted on the packaging lines on the form fill seal machines vertically and horizontally. So this would be the paper which would have been running on the packaging lines live. Unfortunately, we cannot see this now, but hopefully then in February.
Thanks very much. Yes, well, hopefully we can all meet up again in Düsseldorf in February.
Yeah, very good.
So Hery, I'd like to now turn to you and the things that you would have been talking about this week in Düsseldorf. First of all, I heard that Wipak has set a goal of becoming carbon neutral by 2025. We've at Packaging Europe been trying to elevate the issue of carbon footprint on this sustainability agenda because you know, it's been very distracted by the talk of the war on plastics and plastic waste and everything else. Is that becoming your number one goal as well? And what's behind this commitment, and what are the steps you're taking towards it?
I mean, it's always funny because I get to carry the title of head of sustainability, but really the sustainability department is all of Wipak, because our corporate 5-year strategy is carbon neutrality, and so sustainability has always been on our agenda. It's always been a biggie for us. We've won numerous awards for sustainable packaging in the past. But one of the things that was always tricky was that things that seem sustainable because it feels sustainable to the consumer might have a much higher carbon footprint than a solution that looks less sustainable at first glance. So what we started doing was we assessed the carbon footprint, level 2 assessment of everything that we do, of all our plants, and we're able to break it down to the product level. So we know which products are better than others, and that's had some interesting implications, of course, for what we do. So we know, for instance, now that logistics won't be the problem. We know that energy, although a big slice, won't be the problem. So all our Nordic plants run on renewables already. The eastern plants are joining at the end of the year, and the rest are following. So we know, and interesting sort of bridge to the previous conversations, we know that the issue is the raw material. And that, of course, has implications at both ends of the value chain. So if we can get consumers to accept packaging that is sort of from better raw materials, from bio-based raw materials, then that's a big deal. And that's the gamble if you will, the strategic gamble that we've taken. We said that the world needs this. This must happen. And so we want to put all our considerable innovative power behind creating the solutions that have the lowest possible carbon footprint.
Thank you. As Chakravarthi was mentioning before, food is by far the biggest packaging market, and it's also the focus of your business. How do you as a business define the challenges of packaging development for the food market and in terms of sustainability?
So I mean, we do both food and medical, and sustainability means slightly different things there. So the blood transfusion bag has a much sort of much wider or quicker sustainability implications if they don't work well. Of course, we're talking about life and death. On the food side, in terms of sustainability, I mean, there's so many avenues, and we actually don't really know as a society how the die will fall. We know some of the European legislation is there. We're impatient for harmonization so that we understand better. But clear trends that we see, one is, of course, has to be bio-based. The other one is thinner materials. Down gauging hasn't gone anywhere, so that the highest level in the waste hierarchy, of course, is prevention. So as someone said earlier, we try to have maximum packaging impact with the least amount of plastic possible. That is definitely in our interest. Although COVID has changed the narrative somewhat, so we talk about shelf life a little bit more now than we did 3 months ago, or significantly more actually. But we try to go in sort of in all the 5 REs, as we call them. So we work in from recyclates, we work in innovation from that are fully recyclable, so monomaterials. We work in completely redesigning applications so that they're ready for a circular economy. And of course, reuse and reduce are at the top of the agenda as well.
Okay, thank you. And the same question that I asked Yevgen, you were going to be at Interpack. Were you going to present any new innovations there?
So we are actually very much still at Interpack. So we have a product launch every day from today until the 22nd on LinkedIn via video. So we've decided to do it this way this time around, and we're quite excited about how well that's going. So people seem to like 2-minute videos. That seems to be sort of the length that people enjoy watching. And we have a number of innovations. So we have, of course, our almost carbon neutral stand-up pouches, digi-printed. We have products made out of Woodley, which is essentially plastic made out of wood. So funnily enough, if marketing people get crazy sometimes, when you set it on fire, the packaging, it smells like a wood fire, but it acts like plastic, looks like plastic, and protects like plastic. And a number of others. I think we have around 15 products for various applications, from cheese and meat to all the way to medical, actually, that we have.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left, and we've had a few questions sent through from our audience from the YouTube chat. Let me try and put some of these questions to you. So first of all, we have Laura Blasco Galindo, who's made the comments that the value chain needs to cooperate together. Do you think it will be any time soon that we have harmonization in sorting and recycling infrastructure in Europe and some kind of certification? I can say that a slightly cynical sounding Martin Laverton has also said, I would be very pleased to have such harmonization at a national level, which certainly rings true for where we are. Jocelyne, would you like to comment on that? Do you think, obviously that's the holy grail, isn't it, to have harmonization of our waste management? Is that something that we can see being...
It is indeed, because it's really this holy grail, because without the recycler, or without the collector, or without the second market people, we can do nothing. And again, the recyclability is just a word and not a reality. So it's really crucial to have this collaboration. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing very soon this collaboration. I'm still working with a lot of people who are looking for recycled material, for example, and they have no possibility, despite the fact that there is a lot of wasted material. So there is a gap between the wasted material and the availability of recycled material, which means that there is something wrong.
Thank you. There's a question that's been sent to Kevin in particular from Shuvik Mukhopadhyay. Sorry if I've pronounced that incorrectly. Kevin, does the concept of upcycling need to be stressed alongside that of recycling for a better innovative approach towards sustainability?
Well, I think just sort of taking on from the last question is any cycling would be really quite good. Anything that stops the material going straight to a hole or to a flame. Having said that, obviously burning PPE equipment is the right thing to do at the moment, and we get some energy back from it. I think upcycling. Let me take an example from the aircraft industry. Just down the road from me, 20 kilometers away, they break up aircraft and they take hundreds of bits off those aeroplanes, and 30% of them will go back to Boeing and Airbus for refurbishment. They will go back onto brand new airplanes. That's upcycling, because that's a brand new part basically going back on, but it's actually from an original part that started its life 35 years ago. So I think upcycling needs to be classified in terms of, we are not putting it down into something substandard. We're putting it at equal or above where we were. So I'm working on a project at the moment where we're taking flexible films and putting it into a very, very high quality, high barrier building material. This building material is usually it's replacing a wood composite which gets burnt after every use. This material we're developing with the residual of a flexible films is actually being used 20 times. So for me, that's upcycling. That's creating a more superior product. So it's upcycled to its comparative. Rather than just saying, well, if it's packaging, it's got to be packaging. Because I don't believe that if we carry on this journey of if it's packaging, it's got to go to packaging, I think we're going to trip ourselves up really badly. Yeah.
Can I comment on that just briefly?
Certainly.
Because I think there's a problem with the nomenclature there. So I would have classified what Kevin just explained as reuse.
Okay.
And when I think of recycling, upcycling, I have negative connotations immediately of someone building plastic toys or arts objects that no one would have bought unless they were that kind of quirky plastic giraffe made out of flip-flops, for instance. and then to me, that begs the question as to whether this is actually replacing a product that would have otherwise been built, reducing the carbon footprint overall. And so I would stress, I fully agree with Kevin, I would stress reuse is what we need to do, or upcycling back into original forms of high level use, not into lower forms of use, because then we're just running in circles, not doing anything useful.
Just one final point on that 3D printing, which is still in its infancy. We're seeing more and more of the recycled materials coming into play with 3D printing. And 3D printing is patently creating brand new things, and some of the new things it's creating cannot be created in any other way. So I think there's a lot to come in that space.
Great. Okay, I wanted to take one more question, but we're just about to run out of time, and I know Kevin has another meeting in 2 minutes' time, so we probably need to excuse him. Thank you so much to all 5 of our contributors today: Kevin Vyse, Chakravarthi AVPS, Jocelyne Ehret, Yevgen Zolotkovski, and Hery Henry. Thank you very much. Thanks very much to the audience for joining us and for engaging.
We'll see you at Interpack.
Indeed.
Thank you, Kim, and keep connected, all of us. We are packaging professionals.
Perfect.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And also, just a quick reminder, we have 3 more broadcasts over the next 3 days. Tomorrow, 11th and 12th of May, all at 12 o'clock CET. Another reminder, we've got the Sustainability Awards deadline on Friday, the 15th of May. Go to thesustainabilityawards.com to get all the details you need. And last but not least, subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, and you can get all the best of this content from us. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.